Accessing library computer data.
Out there are no saints. Just people.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the coverage of Deep Space Nine. This is Second Sight, the 9th episode of the second season of Star Trek DS9. It aired on the November 21st, 1993. Teleplay goes to Mark Garrett O'Connell and Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf. Story credit goes to Mark Garrett O'Connell, directed by Alexander Singer. In this one, Cisco falls in love with a woman visiting the station, but she is not what she appears to be. Clay, we're back after Necessary Evil. Things were looking up, and then we come to Second Sight. So we'll be back to the old standard Star Trek up and down, I think, for a little bit. But how are you?
I'm good. This was definitely the worst Starfleet member falls in love with a ghost episode I've seen.
Okay, out of the
two that I've seen, this is the worst one.
This one doesn't go with the super campy stuff, and I guess we'll have to break down whether or not she's truly a ghost.
It took like 18 people to write this episode.
Yeah, it's always the sign. That's all. Whenever you see that, it's always a freelancer gives in a script and it gets rewritten heavily. That's always what that means. But
I see. We'll
talk about that when it comes around. We're going to play an audio clip. Me and Clay are going to come back and we're going to break down Second Sight.
What do you think?
It's wonderful.
I'm glad you like it.
You must come here all the time.
Not really. But when I do, a ship is usually blocking the view.
We should have brought a picnic basket.
Here?
What better place?
Well, I guess there is tomorrow.
Is that an invitation?
Sounded like one to me.
All right, Clay, so I'll give you the sort of general background of this one. The Mark Garrett O'Connell originally pitched this episode to be a Bashir-focused episode where he meets a mysterious woman who keeps disappearing, and he goes around to all of his colleagues and trying to figure out who she is, and he discovers that no one on the station has ever seen her except for himself, and so he has to unravel this mystery about what's going on because his crewmates all think that he's imagining everything and going crazy. Mm-hmm. They changed it to a Cisco story because Michael Piller thought that Cisco was becoming too aloof, and he wanted to find a way to sort of humanize him and expose him how he would deal with a romantic relationship and everything. So that's it. They took a writer's original story, they changed it around, they mixed up some things, and I think the end result, whenever they tend to do that, is a weak episode overall, which is what I think Second Sight actually is. Second Sight is really pretty boring in a lot of ways, and I think that it's not impossibly flawed, but it's an episode that's really like the pieces don't come together in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like if they had focused on any one aspect of this story, it would have been a lot better than what we ended up getting.
Yeah, this one is a really good one if you need to put something on to fall asleep to. Because I'll be honest with you, I had to watch the second half of this at least twice because once they start talking on the ship at the end there, I was out.
The white noise of the engines.
Like it's the perfect distillation of the kind of DS9 episode that I don't like, which is like the ambient noise is very prevalent, and then people are just kind of speaking softly on top of it, and it's just those two things are
out. He's out. I mean, I think that it's a.
Also, the story's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it reminds me very strongly of DS9 Season 1, and it reminds me of a bad TNG episode in a lot of ways. I think that they always make a mistake when they try to do the character stuff and put this sci-fi thing in the background, and I think the episode would have been a lot better as a Bashir episode, and I think that they should have probably stuck with it as more of a mystery thing. Them trying,
I don't know. The mystery's pretty boring. I mean,
it is, but I think that I wonder if the mystery is watered down because they have to spend so much time with Cisco trying to develop this relationship for Cisco that doesn't amount to anything. You know what I mean? If you opened it where Bashir had known this woman off screen and we didn't have to go through the meeting aspect of it, I think you could speed up the mystery and make it a little bit more it wouldn't be groundbreaking or anything like that, but I think it would be more interesting than what we get, which is an examination of Sisko's love life, which then breaks into a very bad sci-fi B-plot where I don't care what is going on in regards to like how many women are there and whether or not this means anything. But I guess let's focus on it in the two halves. We'll focus on the first half, which is basically getting to know Cisco, and the second half, which is the mystery. The Ira Steven Bear said that they wanted, or Michael Pillar said that they wanted to keep Cisco from being too aloof. I think Cisco's actually better as an aloof character.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I did notice that this was the first one I've seen in a while where he plays a fairly prominent role.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree that he's better kind of on the fringe.
And I put that down basically to Avery Brooks is more limited as an actor. I don't think he's a bad actor, but I think he's more limited than Patrick Stewart would be. And so when you do things like this, Cisco has a couple of modes of interaction that I find a little bit awkward or off-putting. Every time he talks to Jake, I find it's a little bit weird. And every time he has a romantic relationship, it comes across weird too, because for the rest of the time, he comes across as very detached and sort of unemotional in a lot of ways. And when when Avery Brooks gets to play against these like relationships that he's supposed to be invested in, it feels like it's too different from the character that we've known previously. And it doesn't really work for me. And I think that his acting in those situations never feels authentic to me, and I don't believe him. So he has a little
bit of Tom Cruise going on there.
Do you think so? You want to explain that for people who don't listen to Real Ripe?
Just that there are certain emotions that it doesn't seem like he is totally convincing at getting across, so he just kind of goes over the top with them a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's that. Yeah, I felt the same way in this one. There's a lot of stuff that he does really well, but then there's stuff where he just gets like his enunciation gets really sharp.
Yeah.
And like he starts laughing a lot and getting like overly kind of theater actory, and that's when it comes off.
He laughs at
as kind
stuff
of fake.
that isn't funny for some reason. Like I don't know if it's written as a joke, but he laughs at stuff that's not very funny, and I don't know why it is. And I think that he is. That is kind of a problem with him. I don't think they've really narrowed down what he can do as an actor or what he can do as an actor for this character. And, you know, it ties into a problem that we've always had. They start this episode off by saying it's the 4-year anniversary of his wife's death. Mm-hmm. And then they go into the 45-minute episode is not good for developing a relationship that I find is believable.
Or even like hardly even related to that setup. Like, why even bring that up? Right.
Yeah.
I actually thought that first scene wasn't bad with him and his son, because that's the first time that I've seen them really touch on the death of his wife since the beginning of the show, and so I was kind of looking forward to them examining his emotional state regarding that, but then it was just like, it's been 4 years since your mother died. But this girl's got nice boobs, so I like this. I like this girl now. It just I don't know. All the pieces of this episode did not click together at all for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that goes into my problem of it's too many things in one episode. If they were focusing on it as a Cisco piece, you could get more into that, what the anniversary of his wife's death means and all that stuff, and him approaching a new relationship and everything. Like, you would have time to spend on that and maybe have a little conflict with Jake about it. They don't do that because they have to fit. The second half has to be this sci-fi plot that is not very good. And so I think that it's frustrating for me because I prefer Cisco as the aloof, sort of in the background commander person, and they haven't got the sense of the character yet as to where he's going to be when he has to hold an episode.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with him being aloof either. I mean, there's no reason why he can't be. I mean, it's not everybody has to be chummy,
Right. And I think that him being aloof is a better fit for if they want to continue this emissary story. You know what I mean? Like, if he is a reticent participant in the emissary thing, it's it's better to write that as the character's unwilling to sort of be that sort of gregarious sort of prophet figure to these people. And if he's a more gregarious sort of out there character, him finding discomfort with that role would be a little bit more difficult to sell, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So it kicks off from the Cisco thing, goes into the Sci-Fi plot, which is how we'll bridge the gap here. And I'll bridge it by...
I just want to say, I would like to say that the big outlier for the quality of this episode for me was when he goes to Odo, to try and find her.
Yep.
And he's like, all right, well, give me something to go on. And he just describes her skin color and the shirt she was wearing, and not like the fact that she had weird, very unique ears and is clearly some sort of different species that would probably be easy to track.
He doesn't know the species. I always think of that as it'd be like the white man's guilt or something. Like if someone robs you and you're trying to describe them and you don't want to say that they're what's that?
I was thinking that maybe that's why he did that. But I mean, come on. It's especially if it's not one that you know, and I don't know.
Yeah,
if when aliens are involved, I feel like that stuff. Why not?
I feel the same. It should be. He should have. He does say he doesn't know her species. What I thought was interesting about that scene is the fact of how quickly Odo is willing to do that, and it seems like he should have maybe a little bit of another ethical conundrum there about whether or not he should be searching for people. Although, it's funny that Cisco goes to him with a personal problem, and Odo is very quick and willing to sort of track down people, which I think ties in nicely to Odo's willingness to just sort of get results as opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
When we meet I don't even remember the woman's husband we meet, and that'll be the segue into the sci-fi aspect of this. I don't understand what they were trying to do with this character. His name is Sayetic, I think. Sayetic or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I think they were probably trying to just put an interesting character into the story. Because, I mean, I didn't mind him. I thought he was all right. I mean,
I liked him, but I wasn't sure if... I wasn't sure if the episode wanted us to like him or if they were not supposed to like him. Because people seem to flip-flop between him. Like if you want to write the character as unlikable, the performance is way too likable. The actor that they cast is too likable. If he's supposed to be likable, they wrote him very oddly to be a likable character. And I think he's supposed to be likable because then at the end, his sacrifice where he screams like, "I'm looking into the eye of God," or whatever he says, and then crashes into the star, would mean a little bit more than if you don't like that character. But I thought that he was just kind of odd. He's a character I've never really seen before, which is this very over the top, full of himself guy who's also the kind of guy you wouldn't really mind hanging out with because he's self-deprecating to a point. It was weird.
Yeah, he also just their reaction to him, I think, again, is just it's fairly consistent for the rest of the episode, where it's just like kind of lukewarm. I mean, there's not really much of an opinion given. It's like there's no real conflict there. I mean, the only reason he kills himself at the end is because his wife is unhappy. But even there, it's like,
he does it to set her free, right? That's yeah.
And then, but that doesn't really do anything. It doesn't help Cisco, and it doesn't help anybody else, and it arguably doesn't help the thing he's been working towards his entire life because he just killed himself and can't, look at any of the findings or whatever. I don't know. And like the people reacting to him are just like, ugh, he's real smart, but sometimes he can get on my nerves. Like I feel like my girlfriend tells me stories about people like this at her job every day.
Sure,
and it just seems like another person that. They just kind of like have to tolerate him for a while, and then that's kind of it. And this whole episode felt like just sort of a story that you tolerate for 40 minutes, and then you go, okay, well, at least that's over.
Yes, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I thought that that character doesn't amount to anything, and he takes up a tremendous amount of screen time, and I like so his wife aspect here. Like if you're trying to fix this episode and you wanted to have this sci-fi angle, shouldn't the relationship with Cisco, isn't the more interesting sci-fi aspect of this story the fact that she's sort of subconsciously cheating on her husband,
Mhm.
which they don't talk about that at all. Like they shoo it under the rug by saying that she has no agency over what this holographic vision or whatever it is doing. But Cisco's basically cheating on this guy that he seems to like or trying to sleep with this guy's wife. And the episode doesn't really seem to care about that. It only seems to care that Cisco's in a relationship and this guy is just going to kill himself at the end of it to free his wife from whatever horrible lifestyle he's given her. It doesn't, there's no conflict there that's interesting or worth going on about.
Yeah, especially not to the point where he has to kill himself at the end. I don't know. It was just a big flat for like, cause all of the points in it that are supposed to be like these dramatic points just don't really feel earned or anything. Like when before the killing himself scene where Cisco and the girl are having their big thing and she's like, "I love you," and he's like, "I love you too." It's like, you've seen each other for a total of like 25 minutes in real time. Yeah. And I mean, hey, you never know. Things are weird, but I mean, especially after you find out that she is a holographic projection of somebody in a shitty marriage, maybe you don't commit to saying that you're in love with them real quick.
Yeah.
You have a son to think about, Cisco.
He does. And I don't like, I think it was just a mistake from the get-go with this one where I don't want to see this kind of relationship episode featuring Cisco. Like, I feel like we've learned more about the Cisco character from episodes like Progress and stuff than we have from this. I don't learn anything about Cisco whatsoever from this episode, so I don't know.
He doesn't take any action in this episode. He's just a bystander. And I mean, we learn plenty of stuff about him from the episodes that he takes action in, but in this one, he's just sort of like passively trying to, watching the situation unfold, and he really doesn't have any agency in anything that's going on. Like, even at the end, it's like he's just like, well, he's killing himself, and I guess that means you're going away, so I guess we're back to one.
So at the very end, why does he tell her that the fake version of the woman was exactly like her? I
have no idea.
You have no idea?
No, it seemed to me like that was a dramatic line to end on. Or it seemed...
Do you think he's lying, or do you think he's telling the truth?
I don't know. Honestly, that line feels like it was a holdover from the original script. Okay. And it didn't get adjusted or something, because it just felt really out of place to me. Because, like, he doesn't even know this woman.
Right.
He doesn't know either woman.
Well, I think it on what little he does know, it's definitely a lie. Because the version he fell in love with is nothing like this sort of browbeaten, sad woman that he's talking to at that point. I don't know if he thinks that telling her that is a way for her to feel better about herself. Like, is he saying that, I liked the better version of you, but you're kind of a terrible version of that, and I don't really like you at all?
I guess it could be a way of, like, telling her, like, reassuring her that she didn't do anything wrong or something.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the projection version is clearly a little bit more outgoing than she is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just a way to reassure her that she's not like, she didn't do anything when she blacked out. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. It caught me off guard when I was watching it. Just like, why is he lying to her at this point? I don't understand why he needs to do that, because it's a pretty, all things considered, it's a pretty sad ending. Cisco doesn't really get what he wants. I guess he loses the girl of his dreams, or the next best thing after his wife, at the very end, and she walks away very depressed with like sort of a Charlie Brown walk where she's looking at her feet. And I think that on a sci-fi level, it just doesn't work, because I'm not interested in the whatever projection is going on with it. Like there's no conflict built into that projection aspect, so it doesn't really end up amounting to anything.
Yeah, like she could have been trying to sabotage the mission or something, or literally do anything.
It would have amounted to something. Yeah, I think it's just I don't know. It's a letdown of an episode just because of how much it feels like a prior earlier season and everything like that. It felt like we were making progress, and then you go back to this old sort of standby. But I guess when you're making 26 episodes of anything, that is the best that could actually come out of it.
I have a problem with episodes or stories that the mystery that you're setting up is trying to figure out like who a person is that we don't have any connection to.
Yeah.
Like it feels like mystery for the sake of mystery without any weight to it. You know, it's like just the fact that there's a mystery isn't enough to get you involved or engaged in the story.
Right.
There needs to be you need to care. Like I don't care about who this woman is or why she's disappearing. And
right.
even when I find out, I still don't care.
Right. Yeah, it's her reveal absolutely adds up to nothing else. I think that we'll probably call it a day for that. We'll take a break. We're going to read some patron thoughts about Second Sight, and then we'll give our own thoughts. So, we'll see you in a second.
I wish that I could remember Fenna. What she did. How she felt, but I can't. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I can remember for both of us.
Tell me one thing.
If I can.
What was she like?
Fenna? She was just like you.
All right, so patron thoughts. As always, if you guys support the show on patreon.com/thepenskyfile, you can leave thoughts about upcoming episodes. I've also got the link to this pinned to the top of the Twitter account for myself. So if you are looking for a link or you can't find the post, you can go there and follow it. Upcoming DS9 episodes. We're going to be talking about Second Sight. Kyle Barrett writes, Second Sight. Never has an episode been so incredibly bland that I have nothing to say about it. So I'll simply leave the first couple of lines of the Enterprise theme song here instead in the hopes that Wes will sing them. Well, it's been a long... Should I try this authentically, or should I just cut and paste in the actual Rod Stewart sound alike who's singing this? It's been a long road.
How much is he paying?
It's been Kyle's one of the top patrons, so I guess I have to try it. It's been a long road getting from there to here. Second Sight. Who's up next? We have... Sorry, I should really print these things out because I always have a hard time finding them. Neil Brennan writes, the review you had on Second Sight, which was merely a 2-word review, just said second shit.
Shit sandwich.
So it's gonna. I think that's turning into a little bit of a running joke with the patrons who don't like some of the episodes, is to work that Spinal Tap joke into it. But yeah, it's.
Well, that's a good one.
No one so far has wanted to. I'm skipping through a lot of people who just don't want to say anything about Second Sight, which is something I think in and of itself. Yeah, no one wrote anything there. No one wrote anything there. I think that's it. We only have 2 comments about Second Sight, and no one particularly liked it. Clay, what's your before we go out with a sort of an odd episode here? What's your fix for this episode? Do you have one thing what's the one thing you would do to have made Second Sight actually something worth watching?
I would make the ghost have some sort of purpose, like make her not malevolent, but like I was saying before, like maybe she's trying to sabotage the mission or something. Like give a reason to find out what her deal is, other than the fact that Cisco likes her. Would you at this point? It's just a whole episode full of people who aren't doing anything and just like watching stuff happen.
On a fundamental level, with where we are at the show right now, would you have, if you had to choose either a Cisco relationship story or the Sci-Fi story, which one would you have gone with? You'd have gone with the Sci-Fi story and just kind of given that woman a bit more to do?
Probably, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you have to do either one mutually exclusively.
No.
Yeah, I think I would have. I think you could have made it smoother and punched up both of them at the same time. Like, I think you could have done more with the Cisco dealing with the anniversary of his wife's death and finding a new person that he's into stuff, and have that stuff be a little bit stronger and still have it complement the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
By punching that. So I think you could have punched it up all around. I personally, if I had to pick one, I think I probably would go with the Cisco story.
Yeah.
If only because the sci-fi story is pretty bland.
Pretty bad. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I was waiting for somebody when they were talking about that guy's experiment or something. I was waiting for somebody to be like, yeah, this is kind of like that time they made that planet in Star Trek 2, and then we're told never to do it ever again.
Yeah, it's based on that science. I think it's actually,
oh, is it?
It's actually a callback to the Genesis project. So apparently,
I was trying to keep my ears open in case they used a name or something, but I didn't hear anything. But
where do I have it here? Is it written there? According to one of the writers, Saytek's terraforming technology is based upon the Genesis device. Okay, so maybe they don't say it in the episode, but it is is a callback to that. It's like this, even that guy's plan too. It's like, what was the purpose? Was there a purpose to that other than the fact that just to show that he could do it? Like, was there a larger purpose for jump-starting a dead star? No, I think it was just to show that he could do it. There wasn't like a ticking time bomb or anything going on.
Yeah, or I mean, like, it didn't have to be a ticking time bomb, but I mean, if there's like, what's the purpose behind the experiment other than to do it? You know, like it. I don't know. It was just another thing where it's like, this is just what they're doing. It doesn't really have any bearing on anything. So, you know, this is just how it is for this episode.
It's kind of weird too. Just it feels much more like that kind of plot would happen with a starship that can go to different places. It feels weird to bring that plot to the station in a way, because you have to assume that there's a star nearby the station, which doesn't, like, I feel like the universe around the station has to be kind of static. Like, you can't have a lot of crazy stuff going on directly in that area, because that makes more sense if the ship is mobile and they can go places. So it's just a weird setup to go from. I would have go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and if you take the ghost lady out of the story, everything that they actually do in this episode, they just do it. There's nothing standing in their way. Everything works very smoothly.
Yeah.
Except the guy ends up killing himself.
The kamikaze run at the very end. Yeah. I just, if they're going to make this about Jennifer, Cisco's ex-wife, I feel that and if you want to do this sort of psychic, like, holographic projection or whatever it is, like, at least make the Cisco thing where she's kind of probing his mind as well, and he reminds her of Jennifer or something. Like, you have to tie it in better so that I actually feel like Cisco is learning something, or he's having a little bit more of a conflict than, I can't find this woman on the station, which is basically the only problem he has in it. I would have just had him. He needed to be reminded of his wife and things like that, and maybe show that he's not ready for this kind of thing, and maybe, you know, it ends with him and Jake just sort of being happy to be together. They don't do any of that.
Also, I don't know if he deserves credit or scorn for even after going to dinner and seeing that this dude's wife is clearly this other woman, for him to be like, you know what? I'm going to follow this up.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the relationship for me. Maybe I'm just going to remove myself from this and let them go about their lives.
Yes. Yeah, that's you know, because I got the sense that Cisco liked this guy, but I guess he clearly doesn't, because he's willing to continue on with that line of thinking. Anyway, that's about it. Guys, thank you very much for listening to the show. You can click all the social media links. They'll be below. You can go to patreon.com/the Pensky File to support the show, leave thoughts about upcoming episodes, and get additional podcasts. Check out Real Ripe and Real Rotten, all that stuff. Clay, do you have anything you want to say, or should we go to Non-Sequitur Endings here?
No, I mean, you know, I guess it kind of works into my non sequitur, but I went to the Emerald City Comic-Con last weekend in Seattle, Washington, and it was very fun, and sold some red lines, and people respond to it very well. I have another book coming out on Friday that I'm going to plug. It's called Poser. It comes out from Waxwork Comics. They do every issue comes with a 7-inch vinyl album of original music that they recorded to go with it. They're primarily a record company, and it's a slasher horror thing. Not really sci-fi, so it might not be for this crowd. But hey, maybe it is. I don't know.
Cool.
And you can find it at waxworkcomics.com.
Cool. Check that out. So I guess for my non-sequitur, we'll go out with did you watch the Oscars?
I didn't. I was. You
were traveling, right?
Yeah, I was more or less flying home when the Oscars were on.
I didn't watch them either. Which of the Best Picture nominees did you watch? Any of them?
I saw Get Out, and I saw Three Billboards, and I think that might have been it. There might have been another one I saw, but I can't remember.
Did you see Dunkirk?
I did see Dunkirk. Yes.
Okay. So I've only seen Get Out, Lady Bird, and Shape of Water. How if you were an Academy member, how would you vote for Best Picture? What would be your criteria?
I don't know. That's a tough call. I think I'm kind of fascinated by the expanded Best Picture where they do like 5. Is it like 10 or something?
It's 10 now. Yeah, it used to be 5.
I feel like if you look at that 10, I guess it makes the outcome a little bit more suspect, or not suspect, but it's a little bit harder to guess, I guess.
Yeah.
But some of them are.
I feel there's only like 5 contenders anyway every single year.
I guess that's what I'm getting to. Like, I loved Get Out. I don't know if I would go so far as to say it was Best Picture worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say it was any less of a movie or anything. It's just it doesn't feel like that kind of movie. You know, there's a certain There's a certain kind of. I hate to use the word gravitas, but I feel like you can tell it when you see it, and that one didn't have it for me. Like Dunkirk, I could see, but that's a little bit kind of cliche. Three Billboards feels like it's right in the pocket of the thing that they go for. I haven't seen Shape of Water yet, but I do have. That did surprise me quite a bit, actually. that
it won.
Yeah, based solely on the content, I guess.
Yeah. Grinding Nemo is the Twitter joke.
I heard it's really good though.
It's good. I would have. I posted on Twitter. I would have ranked them. Get Out. I would have given the winner. Then it would have been Shape of Water. Then Lady Bird out of the 3 that I've seen. I think that the older I get, the more. And it might be something worth doing on like a Patreon podcast to go through the previous, like from 1990, look at all the Best Picture winners and say like whether or not that holds up, the decision. Because
as long as we can skip Crash, because I hate that movie.
Well,
I will never watch that movie again.
Me and Amy were just talking about how Crash is the only one that sticks out in my mind. When it was happening, it was like, I can't believe Crash won. Like I'd seen Crash before the Oscars, and I was like, there's no way Crash is going to win. That is a terrible movie.
Oh, it was so bad.
And then it wins, so that's something to Scientology. But I think that the longer I look at this stuff, the more I feel like Best Picture, it's not that a movie has to do well at the box office, but
right.
to do well at the box office and be a great movie is a very difficult thing to do. It's more difficult than be either very good or do very well at the box office.
Yeah.
And Get Out is that way. And I still feel that out of all the movies that I've watched of the Best Picture ones from this year, the only one that I'd ever really want to watch again is Get Out.
Okay.
So I feel that maybe they're not. And that breaks it away from the little bit of the gravitas version of what I'm looking for in a winner. But I feel you do have to kind of look forward into the future and say, like, in 5 years, are we going to be talking about The Shape of Water? You know, like, and I don't think you will be. Shape of Water was good, but it's a very well-made film that I've kind of seen before on some level.
Well, having not seen it, the reason that it surprised me that it won was is that I kind of would put it in the same category, again, having not seen it, but just my impression of it is, I would put it in the same category that I put in Get Out in, which is a really good genre movie.
Yep.
And you could see people backtracking that stuff already after Shape of Water has won, because they're trying to distance it from being a monster movie, basically. And I feel like even as much as I might choose something like that, generally those type of movies don't get the shake from the Academy.
Yeah.
So like Get Out is a really great genre movie, and I feel like very rarely do movies like that end up winning Best Picture, or frankly even being nominated. And when they do, it seems to be the ones that are the higher end prestige versions, like your Silence of the Lambs or something like that, where it's like there's clearly some heavy backing to it, where Get Out was, a tiny independent movie, more or less.
Yeah. I would have given Shape of Water. Del Toro would win Best Director out of the ones that I saw. I wouldn't change that.
I'm really interested to see that movie now, because I think most of the movies he's made have been like 50. I would give 50% to 75% for me, because I feel like he's never had a good script. He's an amazing visual director, but I feel like his scripts are usually pretty bad. Like, I didn't see Crimson Peak, but I heard that wasn't that great. I really enjoyed Pacific Rim, but anytime somebody opened their mouth in that movie, it was like cringeworthy.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, his best movie is still Blade 2. Even Pan's Labyrinth, I think, I don't know. I have to see it again, but it didn't really do much for me at the time. But I'm glad that he won. I'm glad that kind of movie won. And again, I haven't seen it, but someday I think he's going to get a really great script and make a really fucking awesome movie. Yeah.
Shape of Water is a competent script that doesn't make mistakes. But I also think it's very obvious on some level. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of Get Out, which Get Out was something that I had never seen that perspective before. Done that way, and I feel like Shape of Water is a perspective that I've seen before, but they just told it in a different way, sort of. So, not that it's bad or anything like that, but that would have been my own personal rating. And then Lady Bird, I didn't like at all. So people can ignore Lady Bird. Although people seem to like
that one.
I think I'm 10 years. I think in my mid to late 20s, I would have loved Lady Bird.
Okay.
I think it's a story that just doesn't really resonate with me anymore at this point.
Well, that's a good lead into the next thing we're going to do when we're done with this podcast.
Yes, absolutely. So, guys, check out E.T., Real Ripe and Real Rotten. It'll be coming out soon. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.